Okay, hey guys, so welcome to the latest sort of Grow Physio course where we're looking at how to try and help you on your journey to maybe land that first job. Maybe if you've got longer sort of term ambitions and ideas, how you get that dream role within sport. So it might be that you've thought about maybe working for a professional sports team one day, running on, doing all the things that are really exciting that I've been really fortunate to kind of get into. So I'm trying with this course to give you some of those skills that you can take away and apply into your own world to give you that little edge over the other candidates. So the first thing that I would sort of suggest doing is looking at this sort of internal compass, because when you first graduated, you might have had an idea of where you wanted to go, or you might have just gone, you know what, these are the types of topics that I like and I want to learn more about them. So everyone will be at a different age, stage, and have different directions and ambitions. And it may be that you haven't actually kind of gone that far and thought about where you want to go. But when it comes to applying for your first job, there's obviously a wide range of different options that you can go to. And it might be that the end goal is not where you are at the moment. So it might be that you've got to take these baby steps to get through that process. So over the duration of this course, will help you gain that direction, that clarity, give you the skills that you need, prep you for the questions and things that you might require, so you can go on, kick on, and then hopefully kind of smash that interview best that you possibly can. Now, this is a real kind of insightful little clip from the notebook, and it's all about just you having the clarity of where you want to go and what you want to try and achieve, because it's really you who's going to walk that walk and taking that responsibility and ownership for that direction and that sort of happiness bit. Have a little look at this, because it's not always super clear exactly what you want to do.
What do you want? God damn it. What do you want?
I have to go.
So it's really clear, and sorry, we just cut off the front of that, but it basically is him just driving home, what do you want? What do you want? Because it's just not clear. So again, take some time out. Why is it that you potentially want to go in a certain direction? What is it that you like about certain roles, don't like about certain roles? And just write that all down on a bit of paper. And sometimes that can give you that extra bit of clarity that you require. And it kind of boils down to this kind of ikigai, or sort of reason for being, or that kind of purpose or meaning that you have in your life. Do you have a calling? But there's often these 4 different areas of what you love, what the world needs, what you can be paid for, and what you're good at. And sometimes just scribbling things in those little boxes can give you a real nice bit of clarity about where your passions lie, maybe what your mission is. Sounds a little bit grand, but yeah, where do you want to go? What is your purpose? What's your calling? And what's your expertise? And actually, sometimes there might be little voids in that. And we talk about this a lot more in that Ikigai presentation. You can jump on the Grow Physio Academy. But actually, if you don't have much demand for whatever your unique skills are, that might not lead to a long-lasting purpose. If you enjoy what you do and it matters, but it doesn't pay, again, that might be a great hobby, but it isn't going to pay the bills and get your mortgage. It might be that you're doing something that's important to you, but actually you're not yet skilled enough in it. So that big piece around investing in yourself, learning is earning, and all these kind of classic quotes that you have, but definitely invest in yourself, go on courses. That might well give you some softer skills, some kind of real nice CV, resume boosting tips that you can add. And the other bit is you're paid well, but it doesn't fulfill you. So again, you might be in a potential position where you're not enjoying what you're doing at all. I've had a lot of friends who've worked in kind of Premiership football for many years and then got to a stage where they just don't enjoy it anymore. And what they went into it for isn't fulfilling them. So again, have a little test in around that. And it's a shame, isn't it? Because it leads to all of this sort of confusion and contemplation about which direction to go. And again, where do you start to look for some of those jobs, and how do you then step into those roles? How do you prep for it? Is all really important. But again, take that little bit of time out. It might be that you're sort of taking little stepping stones, you're laying that first brick as part of that journey to build your wall. But that whole kind of starting bit is really important. And these are the sort of the stages we go on, really, aren't they? And they're a little bit vague, but we start as a student. When we're a student, we've got a very clear path, a nice kind of projection of where we're going. We've got timetables that we have to attend. It's compulsory. But there's lots of different dimensions within physio, and you might well have enjoyed certain bits more than others. Again, jot all that kind of stuff down. And again, it sort of highlights on here where your career goes. You can see all the career steps that someone goes on. It might be that they're sort of slowly leading towards that role that you want, but you can't step straight into it. And there's lots of little different directions. You can pick up loads of skills and attributes with different jobs. So what you want to do in the long term may not be exactly what you want to do in the short term. So it might be that you even go on a career transition, but it's very rarely linear, this journey. So it might be that you've kind of set off on a clinical path and you've been recognised really well for the qualities that you bring, and you've been promoted to a team leader or a senior physio. You might be sort of taking a bit of responsibility for teaching within that world. But it might be that actually you're being kind of shoehorned into something that you're not necessarily as keen on. You might be given more management responsibilities. You might be kind of doing more leadership. You might be doing potentially some non-clinical work that's pulling you away from that. And that's the route that you're kind of on. But it's really useful just to go back to that compass, that kind of true north of where you are at and where you want to go to. And looking at those values, qualities, etc. is a great way to do that. Because in reality, it can look very, very different, and that's fine. And this is part of the problem, isn't it? We have so many choices. And to kind of quote my dear mother on this one, basically she was saying that you make your best choice given the range of information that you have at that time. No one goes about picking a really unvaluable experience or whatever it is, but in hindsight can be really useful, can't it? So you look back and go, you know what, maybe I didn't make the right decision, but at the time it felt like that was the way to go. But again, that kind of reviewing and refining and reflecting process is really important. And the only other thing that I would sort of add into this is that you have to enjoy that journey. It might be you've got an end goal. If we take a Johnny Wilkinson, for example, winning the World Cup in rugby, he'd worked all of his kind of life and career to get to that point of winning it. And his quote was he was happy for about 30 minutes and then was back to reality. So is it worth it? Really try and enjoy that journey. Get as much out of it as you possibly can, and do what you need to top up your kind of happiness cup along the way, because sometimes that whole discipline side of things that you're doing that isn't as glamorous, to get there, that might just be what you are required to do. Then it's just important to actually get on with it, isn't it? We have to start. So it might be that you might be dreaming pretty big. You're thinking, you know what, this role that's become available is below me. It's not exactly where I want to be. But can you potentially start with that, get into that role, and then maybe look at navigating your way while you're in position? You definitely don't want to kind of just look at the job as a sort of purely short-term option, but it might be that that's the reality of what it is. So if that affects your commitment and kind of drive, and the environment's not a good environment, then actually maybe you don't step into those kinds of roles. But it's really important to get on with that process. Don't just deliberate. Don't just kind of talk about all the other options. Get on with it. Get into a role. It's something that I had to do when I qualified. There were very few physio jobs, and I actually did a job working with patients who had whiplash, that had a car accident, constant necks, constant backs, half of them trying to kind of pull the wool over your eyes, far from where I wanted to be, but actually it was a bit of a stopgap. Gave me some skills with communication, team working, some patient exposure, some other conditions, red flag screening, etc. So again, take the qualities. While you're in position, it might be that you're starting to go somewhere else. And I think that whole analogy of grabbing your own steering wheel, so you're in control of the direction that you go in, because as I alluded to before, what happens very often is if you are a good candidate, you're a good worker, you're a grafter, then quite often you'll be recognised and you'll start to get people trying to give you more and more things to do. But sometimes that isn't going to align with exactly what you want to do. So again, knuckles down to going back into what do you want with this. And then you can set some boundaries, some guidance, around where your head is at and where your passions lie. And I think some of the kind of nice analogies that come with this as well is, imagine you've got a train track with two parallel lines, but what if you just start to slightly deviate by 0.5 centimetre with the other track? So instead of going straight on, you're starting off 0.5 centimetre and you carry on doing those little micro habits, whatever they may be, every single day. And very slowly, what happens is way later down the track, you end up quite in a very different position. Now, you can take a more radical change, can't you, and go a completely different route altogether. But sometimes those little micro habits that you make today can make a massive difference at interview in terms of kind of the things to talk about, examples, bringing that all together. So all of that is really beneficial for the interviewers to kind of see what kind of person am I going to potentially employ, and do their kind of habits reflect what they're saying. Because this is kind of something just to kind of note, really, that if you just aren't being successful applying for jobs, you've thrown your name in the hat multiple times, you're not getting opportunities, you're not getting shortlisted, or you're going to interview and then not making that transition and not being successful, this is a great little talking point that we'll go through over the course of this program. And what will we cover? So I guess it's that kind of what can we do now? So very much that kind of introspection bit that we do. We'll nail your CV and cover letter to make it much more appealing, much more aesthetically pleasing as well. How to kind of shoehorn in all those meaningful experiences, how to get character references, etc. And then how do we go about finding the opportunities? So sometimes you go, how did you end up, is a question that I get all the time. How did you end up working in the LTA for the tennis? How did you end up in British gymnastics? How did you end up at the UK Sports Institute? And I'll tell you some of those ways and where to find the jobs. Then once you've applied and you've been shortlisted, which is where they select the kind of most desirable candidates, they're likely to interview you. So what questions will you get? That might be case studies around athletes, it might be what you bring to the team, how you get on top of injury prevention, etc., and how to really sell yourself. So really highlighting what you bring to the table. And then actually sometimes it's addressing that elephant in the room, isn't it? You might have things that you lack. You might not have worked in that particular sport before, but what are you bringing that's really unique that will help that organisation, help offload jobs for the kind of head physiotherapist or sports therapist who's there? And then once you get your offer and you're successful, then how do you go about potentially prepping for that role? So when you come in, you're hitting the ground running rather than feeling a little bit of that sort of real imposter syndrome-y bit and then starting to kind of flap a little bit as the day goes on. And if you're unsuccessful, actually, some of the roles that I've got, I've actually not been successful, and then actually develop relationships with the people who are on the interview panel, asked for feedback, and how do we make that process really nice from there? So that's the kind of introduction. We're going to go look at the sort of first part, really, which is looking for a job, where to look for them, and then how to kind of marry that up with your job descriptions and your person spec. So these are the details as ever for myself. If you want to get in touch, I would love to hear from you. Any questions, just give me a shout, and I'll see you guys in part 2.